I'm Matt with HFP, and I thought today'd be a great day to go over what I use to plow with and some of the pieces of equipment I've used in the past. It is 70 degrees and sunny today, and I'm putting my plow on because tomorrow they're calling for 4 to 8 inches of snow. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be probably 4 inches of super heavy wet stuff. So what I got here is my Bobcat Telehandler V417, and I got a Blizzard snowplow. It's a Blizzard 8611 SS, and it's a plow that was designed to go onto skid loaders, and I've heavily modified it to work with this machine and to just be a better snowplow. The original design was pretty old school. It had a fixed mount. It didn't float with the ground right. But super heavy duty built. The other reason why I like this plow is the sides actually go in and out, and then they'll fold forward into a scoop. So when it's scooped, it's 10 feet 3 inches wide and full scoop. The plow itself is 32 inches tall. When it's the arms are completely out, it is 11 feet 3 inches wide. And then I like this plow because I can suck the arms in, and I can suck it all the way into 8 foot 5 inches. So I drive this thing everywhere. So I can suck those corners in, I can drive in traffic. It's super tight, super easy. If I have to put it on a trailer, again, I can suck the corners in and put it on a trailer, and I don't have a wide load. So I'll grab the camera here and I'll get you some close-ups of it. All right, so here's the plow itself. And as you can see, these arms move. And once we get towards the end of this video, I'll fire the tractor up and I'll move them in and out for you. Here's our Blizzard plow. How these things come stock, they just come with this fixed plate here. So it doesn't pivot forward and backwards. And then it came with this huge hydraulic cylinder block. And then from that hydraulic cylinder block, you had a joystick that went back into the cab to run all your functions. It was just too much, and then I'm gonna have 2 joysticks to run, so I got rid of all that stuff. I have just one hydraulic actuator in there. So it's run off 12-volt power, and there's a little brain box in here. So I just have to do one plug, goes to this brain box, and then inside the cab, all I have to do is press this button. I press that button, and I have right and left hydraulic power. I press the button again, and then my arms will go in and out. It's just super simple and easy. The brain box itself came from Skidster Solutions. It made this project just super easy. So what I did is I took that hydraulic block plate out. I just put a simple 12-volt switch in there that switches it from right and left to in and out. I kept the plate here that was part of this whole attachment, and then I just bought a universal skid loader bracket, and all I did on the bottom there, if I can get this thing to focus, I made a plate with 4 different holes in it. That way I can raise it up and down that way and get my plow angle right. I just put one on each side here, and I just welded it right to the plate that came on the plow. And then I just use chains to hold it. That way I can adjust my distance, which will help with my attack angle on the plow. Now, I had originally put the chain in here. That way I could just pull the chain off and put a loop in here, and I could adjust it on the fly. The problem I ran into is this plow so heavy, and as it bounces, this actually acted like a shear. And after a couple hours of plowing, it would shear my chain off. So it's just bolted there, and then, like I said, my pin's right there. So pretty darn simple design, and it just works great. All right, so you guys seen the plow, kind of went over the basics of how it works. Now, why did I go with this plow and not something else? The biggest reason I went with this plow, I can suck the ends in, I can drive around in traffic real easy, I can load it up on a trailer, it's not too wide. I can still scoop it so it still works like a snow box. Is it as good as like an Arctic for pushing long distances? No, but I would say it can move probably 80% of what like an Arctic can. But now, like where we push, I have to push 300 yards. We're only allowed to put the snow in one spot. It's got to get hauled out the next day. So I have to be able to push a pretty decent amount of snow a long ways. Now, even with using like a box, you have all that snow that blows out the sides. Well, I can't go and push all that blown out snow back the other way, because then I'd have to turn around and push it another 300 yards. So I can scoop this thing, I can push my main load, I can turn around, I can straighten my blade, and then I can windrow the far side closer to the other side. That way when I turn around and make another pass, I can catch a lot of my snow that is blown out on the sides. The other thing that's super awesome about having a setup like this, in the big lots that we push, a lot of times it's me and then it's also a wheel loader back there. So I'm able to get close to everything and I can windrow it away from everything. And I can do it going, 12, 13 miles an hour. I mean, I can fly right next to trucks and trailers. We do a lot of trailer dock stuff. So I can get it all pushed away, and then the wheel loader can come in and it can do just straight long passes, and then they don't have to worry about getting close to anything. Plus we got a couple roads that we have to push too. Well, I'm able to just windrow all those roads. It's a very versatile setup is the best way to explain it. And then with it being on this telehandler, well, the telehandler's got all-wheel steer. So like when I do loading docks, if there's two trailers that are pulled out, I can drive straight into where one trailer's at and I can turn and come right back out. I don't have to back drag. As long as I get about a 20-foot wide area, I can go straight in, turn and push straight out. There's a couple advantages to that. One, I'm not backing up. If you've ever done stuff where there's a lot of semi-trailer backing up, dude, there's people everywhere, constantly in and out of their trucks. So backing up isn't the funnest because you don't know when someone's gonna walk around one of those trailers. Those things are 40, 50 feet long. Well, as you're backing up, if somebody's walking across the front of one of those trailers, you can't see them until it's too late. So it's really nice that I don't have to do a lot of backing up. The only time I have to do any backing up is when we do our final cleanup and I have to get right up next to the building and back drag. That's another nice thing with the plow. With like an Arctic or a box, you got anywhere from 1.5 to 2 foot long sides. You can't get right next to the building. With the plow, I can get within about, I'd say probably 7 inches of the building, and that's good enough for our contract. So I'm able to get up 7 inches next to the building and back drag, and we're done. The other nice thing with it being a telehandler, that arm extends out. So like when we do our final cleanup around the trailers, on the front of the trailer where it attaches to the truck, I can actually stick my arm out and I can go all the way to the jacks, put it down, and I can back drag. So our contract, they love it. The truckers love it because they don't have to back on top of that snow to try to hook up. And when you're taking a truck and you got it on slick snow and you're trying to lock that hitch in, it's not fun. So that works really good for the contracts we have. Now I'll show you the tractor. So one other thing I wanted to talk about, all the different equipment we've used. We've used trucks, we've used skid loaders, wheel loaders. We now have this telehandler. We've used push boxes, plows, Arctics. Probably one of the nicest pieces is the Arctic. How they're designed, they cut down great. As far as that final clean, they're awesome. They're able to cut right down to the concrete. They're able to carry snow long distance. And then how the arch is built, they actually, when you have snow coming in, you can see it roll. And by those Arctics creating that roll, it's less force that you're pushing because the snow's actually, it's rolling with you like a tire. So you're not having to push it hard. The reason why I didn't go with it on this setup, only downfall, and they do make them pivot now, but for the longest times they were just fixed. Well, they're hard to take like a 12 or 14 inch Arctic and be able to turn with it. So with this being a plow and it pivots, I can turn in and out around cars and trailers and trucks, and it doesn't push the machine around. It doesn't fight the machine. It's literally just like driving around stuff. And with the Arctic, and I've put an Arctic on this, even with the articulating steering, that box just fixes the tractor straight. You can get a little bit of turning, but you can't do sharp turning. You can't go around curves or like islands. You know, I can go and turn all the way around an island and keep the one edge of the plow right next to the island. So I'm not going forward and backwards hitting it 4 or 5 times. I can just make a loop around it and I'm off. So if I had to just pick one, I would probably just pick the Arctic because you can move so much snow forward. You can move large amounts of snow. But since we've used them all and we have other equipment with Arctics on it, I don't need one. I'm able to take this unit and get up close to everything. I can hit it fast, especially what we do. We have to be there pushing snow the entire time it's snowing. So we're trying to hit it as fast as we can as they're moving trucks in and out. They don't do a, wait till it snows 2 or 3 inches or wait till the end. They literally want us there when there's ½ inch of snow and we need to be there moving it the entire time. And most snowstorms, they're usually there moving trucks in and out. So we just, we don't have an option. We got to move the snow away from the docks fast. And, and I found that this setup works the best. I just subcontract, so this is my rig. This is the only one I own. And I do all the snow pushing with my cousin, and he's the one that owns all the other equipment and deals with everything else. But we have 3 skid loaders with Arctics. I think we got a 10-footer and 2 12-foots, and they're pretty good. The other nice thing about an Arctic, if you got a sidewalk that's in front of a parking spot, you can actually pull that Arctic up, just set it right down the sidewalk, back drag, and it just rolls down that curb and gives you a perfect clean. I can do it with this setup, but it's not super smooth like an Arctic. So that's another pro to the Arctic there. The other stuff we've got a wheel loader, and it's got a 14-foot Arctic, and I don't know, it's probably 42 inches tall. It's a monster. And that guy's usually with me where I'm cleaning everything up or away from the trucks and the trailers, and he's just hauling it 300 yards. So that system works great. We can move a lot of snow. It takes us about 30-35 minutes to hit our whole area, and we got 32 docks that we have to clean up, plus there's an additional storage lot. And I would say there's got to be about 50 or 60 trailers in the storage lot, plus a road that goes to the storage lot. So it's a massive area. It's huge. Wheel loaders. If I had all the money in the world and I could have just one piece of equipment for snow, I'd have a 30,000 pound wheel loader. You can drive them down, as long as you got ride control in them. Most of the like 28 to 32,000 pound wheel loaders with ride control will do anywhere from 25 to 32 miles an hour down the road. If you don't have ride control, you're lucky to do 17 because they just get to bouncing too darn bad. Before I had this one, I had a Volvo L60, and it was, I think, 30,000 pounds, maybe 32,000 pounds. And it'd do 32 miles an hour, you know, on flat ground. You know, going up a hill, you're gonna be down to like 15. And I had a 12-foot plow that I built some sides, and I'll show you that. And that thing was awesome. I mean, it was fast. It could push a mountain. Since I had a plow, basically a box plow, I was able to articulate it, and I get right up next to stuff. It really worked out good. But those wheel loaders are so expensive. For what I do, I really only use it for snow. And here in Nebraska, we don't get the snows that we used to. We used to get, gosh, probably a good 7-8 snows a year. Now we're down to about 4 to 6. So I had to sell it. I just couldn't justify keeping that piece around just to do snow. And then with the telehandler, man, it works out just so much better. It's still heavy enough, it's 11,000 pounds, so I can still move those large amounts of snow, especially this heavy stuff that we're gonna get. It's gonna move it just fine. It's got 2-speed in it. It does 17 miles an hour. I usually push in 2-speed, and I probably push around 12 to 14 miles an hour. So it's, I mean, it's fast. It's way faster than a skid loader. I mean, I can push next to a skid loader, and I mean, it looks like a NASCAR, you know, next to, I don't know, a Ford Pinto. I mean, I can just fly past them. Oh, so that's the other thing. So with a telehandler, I can use it all year long, and I do. It's okay with doing like dirt work. It's not the greatest, but it still gets it done. And I do a lot of stuff in the shop. I just work by myself. So I use it to lift all kinds of things. I mean, I got a truck over here. We got to change some springs out in it. The spring pack's probably 200 pounds. I'm not gonna manhandle it out. I can just take this thing with the forks, run it over, hook a chain up to it, lift it out. Plus I'll have to take the Dana 80 out of it. And I don't know how much those things weigh, probably 800 pounds, you know, at least 450. Well, with having the telehandler, I'm able to do it. Or when I had the wheel loader, it was so big and bulky. You usually just figured out how to do it by hand because I couldn't fit the darn thing into the shop. So I use this telehandler all year long, and it just works great for everything I do. Plus, it's an awesome snow machine. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, before I bought it, I got on YouTube trying to see if anyone uses these things. There's, I don't know, 3 or 4 videos on there. They're all really short. Nobody talks about them. You really don't know what they can do. The other thing that I found, so I was looking at all the different brands, and I was pretty much down to either Bobcat or JCB, because that's who we have for local dealerships. The JCB dealership here is iffy. The Bobcat dealership here is freaking awesome. So that's why I went with the Bobcat. Most of these telehandlers, the other nice thing about them, when you get into the JCB side, dude, the options are, you can get whatever transmission you want. You want it to be a 2-speed, a 4-speed. You want it to be hydraulic driven, gear driven. Like, you pretty much pick whatever you want if you can figure out the JCB numbers, because they make no sense to me. So this machine and a lot of the smaller machines, what they are, they're hydrostatic driven, but then the gears are all gear driven, and the 2-speed is ran off of a gearbox. So when you go into the 2-speed, you're not putting the stress on your hydraulic system like on a skid loader when it's in 2-speed, because this thing's actually running a gearbox, and they even sound different. Like if you push with the skid loader, that was the other thing I didn't like about a skid loader. You really didn't want to take a skid loader and push for a long time in 2-speed, because the hydraulic system got super hot. Everybody tells you not to do it. But if you're pushing light snow, I mean, we all do it. Or at least you can run one pass in single speed, and then when you turn around to go back to hit your other pass, you know, you can flip it into 2-speed. But even 2-speed on a skid loader is only 10, 12 miles an hour, where after I hit a pass, I can turn around and I can do 17 miles an hour, you know, the 300 yards back to do another pass. So that was one of the huge things that sold me on it. And at 17 miles an hour, I drive it everywhere. I'm probably, I don't know, 15 miles away, maybe 20 miles away from where we push. It takes me about 45 minutes to drive it there. And then if, like tonight, I'll just drive it to my house. And the thing looks big, but it's actually really small. I just have an old celebrity house, so you got tiny garages. If I take the plow off, I can fit this thing in my garage. So that's what I'll do tonight. I'll drive it there, I'll park it at my house, and then I'm only 15 minutes away. So our main place we push is the furthest away, so we'll hit that during the storm, we'll clean it all up, and then I have 4 other places I hit on the way back. So I just drive it there. I don't have to have my truck out getting dirty. I don't have to have a trailer out getting dirty. I don't have to clean a truck, clean a trailer when I'm done. And really, by the time I hook the trailer up, put this thing on a trailer, drive it there, dude, it's faster to just road it. Then like wheel loaders. Man, wheel loaders on the road, especially when it's snowing, because nobody knows how to drive. Dude, you can keep up with traffic. If you got a wheel loader that can do 25 to 30 miles an hour, you can literally drive with traffic. So, like, I mean, we leave them at our shops, and then before the snow, we just drive them there. Especially, it's like the last snowstorm we had, well, not the last, the one before that, you know, it was -10 out. When you take one of those big tractors, you leave it outside when it's -10, you better have your fuel set up the right way, otherwise you're done there. You're gonna have to plug it in 1 to 2 hours before you even attempt to start it. And then once you start it, you're looking at a 45-minute warm-up time. I mean, those things have 2-3 gallons of oil. The hydraulic systems are usually somewhere in the 30-gallon to 40-gallon range. You gotta let all that stuff warm up, or you're gonna break stuff. So that's another reason why we went with the bigger equipment that you can just drive around. We started off with trucks like everybody else. And dude, the only reason why I still have a plow in my truck is just for a backup. Something happens, the plow's already bought and paid for, so I have it for a backup. I haven't used it in 3 years. The bigger equipment that you can drive on the road is just, man, it's so much nicer. And then pushing is just so much faster because you can see everything around you. And even like this machine, like your wheel loaders, you just flip a switch. You know, mine's got a lever in it, so forward or backwards, it's just, boom, you're right there. You know, you only got 3 gears. You got forward, neutral, and backwards. And then on the newer stuff, or like on a lot of the wheel loaders, it's right in your joystick. It's a button. So you go forward, you just hit a button, boom, you're in reverse. So hopefully that helps you guys out. You know, there's just not a lot of videos out there where people really talk about the different pieces, and we've used them all. And there's really nothing about the telehandlers. So we'll walk around the telehandler, and then I'll show you my wheel loader plow. This is the machine I use. The cab isn't huge, but it's big enough. It's big enough. I got 2 pairs of boots. I always keep a couple quarts of anti-gel with me. I got my coveralls in case something happens. I got a tool bag back here. I got extra chains, and then I'll usually put a small soft cooler right here. So it's big enough for all that. Heat wise, I did have to add some insulation to carpet. I did it there. Here I took a stress mat, just like a work mat, and put it down there where my feet go, because this thing was just all steel. There was zero insulation on it. Now the newer ones have it, but you know, I didn't want. All right, so here's the machine itself, Bobcat V417. So it might look big in the walk around, but it's really not that big. It's 72 inches wide and 13 feet long. So it's not a big footprint, but man, it can push more than a, you know, a large skid loader can, and it can do it a whole lot faster. The other thing too that I do on all of our machines that have tires, I do this. So I got a tire groover. It is the best investment I've ever done. So I groove my tires. I'll just do some 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch slits, about I don't know, 1.5 inches away, and then I also got a siper, so I'll sipe them. And if you've ever run anything with V-bars on, you know, snow or ice, dude, they just spin. But if you slit them and you sipe them, dude, I mean, it's like having winter tires on a car. Especially this heavy wet snow we're gonna do. I mean, we're gonna have to drive over a lot of hard packed stuff, and I'm not gonna slip. Even when I do this to the wheel loaders, dude, you take a big old like 30,000 pound wheel loader with basically ag tires on it, dude, they slide all over the place. You groove them and you sipe them, dude, they just stick to that ice. I mean, there's been quite a few times, especially here in Nebraska, a lot of times we'll get ice before the snowstorm, especially here the last 4 years, and I don't have any problems with traction. And in this thing, most telehandlers, they don't have lockers. It's just an open front and open diff. I mean, I guess you kind of call it posi. I mean, it'll kick back and forth, but for the most part, you got one front tire spinning and one rear tire spinning, and I have zero issues with traction with this thing. So we'll walk over here. I'll show you the plow for the wheel loader. So this plow is just an old highway plow, 12 foot wide. It was set up on a wheel loader before, and I had to cut the mounting brackets off. And kind of like my other plow, it was, I don't know why they did this back in the day. You know, this thing's probably, I don't know, probably a 30-year-old plow. They just fixed mounted it, so you had no pivot, so it wouldn't float with the ground. So I cut the old quick attach plate up. There's mine for my Volvo. I just put a pin right there, and this top bracket, I gave it about 8 inches of play, so that allows it to, as you're going, you know, up and down on different levels of concrete, it just floats with it instead of just coming up and banging on the ground, or you're constantly trying to play with the bucket, you know, tilt on it to get it to sit where it needs to be. I do all these, that way you just set it on the ground, and once you set the tilt the right way, dude, you just drive just like a pickup truck. So the box sides, what I did there, I just took 3/8 steel, and then I took 4x4 by, I think it was 1/4 inch, and tied them together, put a couple gussets on it. I put some angle iron at a cross to give it some strength, and then I bolted on my skids. That way I can just, you know, unbolt them if I have to fix them. This current setup I ran for 2 seasons. I never had to change my skids out, and the reason why, I designed it to float. So here's my pins. So if I just want to use this as a regular plow, it's 2 pins. It takes like 2 minutes. Pull those 2 pins out and I back up, and my box is off. Because the only thing holding the 2 sides together is just my 4x4 plate and those 2 pins. And then I gave those pins some room to float for a couple reasons. One, I didn't want all that pressure on the sides. That way I wasn't burning up my skids. The other thing too, as this plow wears down and your cutting edges wear down, it's got to wear down, you know, and still have your sides float. So if it's fixed on the sides, as your cutting edge wears down, your sides are you're gonna eat your skids up basically. Let's see. Oh, so this plow, it's a regular old school tilt plow. I really wanted to get one with a bottom trip edge. That way the whole boxing would have just been, you know, it would have taken no time to design. Well, I mean, this was on Facebook for pretty much free. So, you know, why spend the extra money for a trip edge? And most of those they wanted, even for a used beat up one, they were, you know, $4,000 or $5,000. And I think I got this whole plow for like $400 or $500. So I made it work, and it works great. It'll do a full trip and your box sides stay sitting perfectly straight just like that. And then by having that pivot on the bottom, I can roll up to curbs and it'll, you know, the box itself will walk up over the curb until my plow hits it. So there's that setup. I haven't seen anyone else build something like this, so hopefully this might help one of you guys out. I'm gonna go over a couple things I did forget to mention. So on this plow, probably one of the side effects of this plow is I mean, everyone knows who Blizzard is. It's not a super popular brand. It's not around here. So your cutting edges, nobody keeps them in stock. You got to pay for shipping. A set of cutting edges for this thing, they wanted like $1,500. So all I did, I took a grater bar and I just bolted it up on the bottom. And I forget what this is. It's 3/4 by 6 grater bar. And then since we have to do 0 tolerance pushing, we do a lot of pushing where you're pushing just on concrete. You know, a lot of times when you wait to the end, you get just a nice layer of like ice on the bottom. When we're pushing, sometimes they have a salting while we're pushing. Dude, we push on a lot of freaking raw concrete. So I actually add right here to the bottom, and then this setup's about done for. But this is going to be 1.25 inches tall by 1 inch wide, just bar stock. So I add a piece here, I add 2 pieces in the center, I add 1 to the end. The stock cutting edges last a touch longer than this, but like I said, it's, you know, $1,500 to swap out the stock ones. Where with this setup, I got about $350, you know, not including my labor, but about $350 gives me enough metal to do 2 sets of cutting edges. And I usually get 1 season, and 1 season, maybe 1 season, 1 push the next season out of a cutting edge setup. Then the other thing I do, I got this, I gotta paint it one day. But this little piece here, with these 2 pieces of tape and this bar that holds my hydraulic lines up, if I'm in the middle of these 2 pieces of tape, my attack angle is 70 degrees. So I'm able to, from the cab, when I set it down on the ground, I just tilt my bucket cylinder out just a touch. So the plow is basically free floating, just like it would on your pickup truck. And I set this to where it's right here, and I have a 70 degree attack angle. And it works really good there. Plus it floats nice and easy. The thing I did with this particular setup, so I wanted to just be able to set this down, kind of like you're running a truck plow, just up and down, right and left. So the original setup on this tractor, this plate right here was only about 3/8 of an inch tall, and now my total height is, I think, about 1 3/4 of an inch. What that does is it keeps my bottom plate far enough off the ground where I can drive over, you know, different levels of concrete, or we got some speed bumps we have to drive over. I don't have to lift the plow up. So as I'm plowing, 99% of the time, all I do is tilt it back to lift it, and I tilt it forward to set it up. That way I'm not lifting, setting down, trying to reset everything. It's almost just like running a plow on a truck. It's just up and down, and I'm just doing my up and down with my tilt. So it's quick, it's easy. I'm not messing with stuff in the cab. The only thing I got to look at, and once you do it about, you know, 900 times, you can pretty much do it blindfolded. All I look at is just when I tilt it down to where these two lines are centered. you guys liked the video. If you would like to support me, please like and subscribe. And I do have a website at thehfpstore.com. I have a couple products on there, either products that I've found over the years that work great for me, or some of them I've designed. I couldn't find them. Two of our best selling products are these welding blankets and then the stubby 1/4-inch impact driver bits. The welding blankets. These are a 3-layer heavy duty welding blanket. They have 2 layers of carbon felt and a center layer of fiberglass mesh. I've used a ton of different welding blankets. I personally don't like the all fiberglass welding blankets, and I do like the carbon felt blankets because they're soft and I can use them for welding, plus I can use them to set parts on. But the standard ones just, they don't work that good. They burn up too easy, they burn through too fast. So I went on the hunt to find the best carbon felt welding blanket I could. And I came across these blankets, and they are not a standard carbon felt welding blanket. They are much stronger, they're gonna last a lot longer. I absolutely love them. So that's why I put my name on them, and we currently sell them now. The next product is a stubby 1/4-inch impact driver bit. You would think that this would be an easy product to find. I couldn't find them. I searched and searched, so I ended up having them made, and we currently sell them. The reason why I made them, I do a lot of work on cars, under dashes and behind fender wells and behind bumpers. And it's not fun if you have to use a hand tool. If I can get a power tool to fit in there, I'm grabbing that thing first. These short ones are about 3/4 of an inch shorter than anything else out there on the market. And what it's gonna give you, you're gonna be able to put your socket bit on almost tight to the head of your impact driver. There are some models, depending on what kind of impact driver you have. Like this one here, it sits out about 1/4 of an inch. That's the furthest out it's gonna sit. The rest of these, it sits nice and flush, and it saves a ton of time when you're trying to work in a tight area. So if you like these products, check out my website and purchase one. Thank you.